Hello everybody, welcome back to another tutorial. Onwards with part 4 of our inventory. Today we're going to create the base pickup for our inventory. So every time we want to pick up an inventory item, it will be a child actor of this item. So come down to blueprints, let's open up a new folder and let's call it pickups. Inside pickups, let's right click, let's create a blueprint class, make it an actor and call this pickup underscore base. Open up pickup underscore base. Let's grab the event graph over here. We'll move these guys down because we won't need them. Let's start with get player character cast to B underscore hero and promote to variable reference underscore hero. Moving that tab over there. Next up, let's create a variable. We'll call this item info. And if we click on the variable dropdown and we type in inventory, we will get a structure inventory. With that saved, let's compile that. And we can see here that we can now give this item the details that we gave it before. Call this base pickup. We could also give it a random image of some sort, and this is the image that will appear in the inventory. So later on we'll need other images. Maybe we will just use the 0 key dark there, and the amount will be 1. Let's compile and save that again. We'll need to go back to the viewport, add ourselves a static mesh so we can see it in the world and it can interact with objects. With the static mesh, we'll just pick something random. Maybe this cone, so it's different to our other pickup. And then on top of that static mesh, let's go ahead and add ourselves a box collision. With this box collision, let's center it up. And so we get an idea of what this looks like in the world. We'll actually drag it in there now. Okay, it's a bit big. If I hit play and I look at these guys, they're still pretty big for whatever they are. Yeah, we'll size that down. So back over to pickup base, click on the static mesh, and let's knock down the scale to about 0.5. But this is just for testing purposes anyway, so you don't need to be too particular about it. With the box, I'm going to give it a radius of about 50, 50, and 50. We might expand that later, but now we've done that, compile and save. Over to the event graph, right click on the box, add on component begin overlap. We'll get rid of begin overlap and tick. Add on component end overlap. This is going to look very familiar to the other script we've created. We're going to start by checking if our other actor is equal to our hero reference so that this doesn't get fired every time someone random walks into it. And then if that's true, we'll enable input. And we'll need a player controller for that. So get player controller. And we'll do the reverse over here. We'll disable input once we've left the box so that we're not still trying to pick up the same object. Instead of enable input, we'll get disable input. Remembering that we shouldn't be disabling input of the player controller itself. So make sure player controller is plugged into player controller and not to target, because otherwise we'll stop moving because our player controller is how we control our player. This is going to take us back to what we did last time before we started the inventory with our pickup text. Let's get our hero reference again. Let's get our HUD reference from inside our hero. So with that HUD reference, let's set interaction text, which is an event we created inside of our HUD. And then we'll append this, append string, plug this guy into that side, get item info, which I might call item information, and we will break S inventory. We will plug name into B, right? So I might be going a little bit quickly. I'm trying to slow down because this stuff gets a bit complicated. So item information into break S underscore inventory. So we're getting the information that's stored in this structure. And then we're taking name. Name is being converted from text to string, which for our purposes are pretty much the same thing, but we need to define that for Unreal. And then we're plugging that into B, and then it's going back into string here. The reason we're converting from text to string to text is so we can append it here inside of the blueprint. And then within A, we will reference our code, and that code was left arrow img space id equals quotation mark action / reload. Then I will close those quotation marks, right facing arrow, and then I will close it out by left arrow / right arrow. And then I will also add a pin. Let's drag this down to C because we're going to do our space pick up space. And that's going to give us the text when we walk into it to pick up the item. And then let's copy the reference hero for reference HUD and clear interaction text when we walk away from the object. So we've essentially replicated a lot of the script that we've created before. However, where this differs is what we do when we pick it up, which I like to put between begin and end overlap. So let's go and grab action / reload. This is the event that will fire. It will take over our normal action and reload when we're standing in front of this. And just because we like to test things as we go, let's hit play and walk up to this object. Yes, we haven't turned on physics, but that's okay. If I walk up to it, it says E pickup base pickup, which is great. That's what we need. And then if I walk away, it stops saying that. Just double checking. Now, the first thing we're going to need for this script is our actual inventory. Where are we storing these items? Well, let's go back to the test map, over to blueprints, and we're going to store them inside our player. So let's add a variable. This is going to be inventory, the actual inventory. Let's hit the drop down, type in S underscore inventory. But it's not just going to be one inventory. If we click the little icon here, we can turn this into an array. So it is a list of structures, an array of structures, if you will. So again, like I was trying to explain probably a few videos ago, this is essentially just saying, hey, a structure is a group of information. So the columns you'll see up the top of your Excel sheet. And every time we add an item, it comes down the rows and fills them in. So let's compile and save that, because now we have something to reference and it's inside our hero, and we already have a hero reference. Let's grab our hero reference. Inside our hero reference, let's get inventory. And the first thing we need to check is length. So arrays are a little bit different. We have specific nodes for them, and this is one of them. Let's drag out of that and check if this number is lesser than something. So right now we have 25 slots inside our inventory, so we will punch in 25. And that's our first check. Is our inventory full? Because if it is full, then we're not going to be able to pick anything up. And if we did, it would break our inventory. So there's part one. Now, if our inventory isn't full, we will grab that inventory again, and we will simply add. And the thing we will add to the inventory is the item information. Just like that. Which means that that item should be added. And then we will grab our default scene root, static mesh and box, and we will set visibility. The reason I'm grabbing all three is because sometimes visibility can be a bit funny. We'll actually just start with default scene root and static mesh. Now, currently the way this works, right? Normally what we'd do is destroy the item, but we need to reference the item in the inventory, and we need to reference this script as well. So we can't destroy the item. What we need to do is save the item, then turn it invisible. So saving the item we can do up here in our beginning script. We're going to grab item information, because remember we're making a reference to an actor over here in item information. So to set that, the actor needs to spawn in the world first, and then we can do it. So let's go and set members in inventory S, and let's click on item. Now let's get a reference to self. Plug self into the item slot. So we are saying, hey, this is what the item is in our item information. Seems a bit redundant, notifying the item what the item is, but go with it. And then finally, set item information for our final variable to hold on to that. So to fix that error where the text is staying up, we'll just copy over clear interaction text. And one other thing that you might not be aware is going to happen is that that object is going to be able to be hit even though it's invisible. So if we hit play and walk into it, that's solid. If we pick it up, the clear interaction text goes, but I'm still running into the object and it's still firing the script. So let's go and turn off collision for our static mesh. Drag our static mesh in, set collision, and we will use this node here and we will say no collision so that we can't run into it. Compile and save that again. Now, if I walk up and I pick it up, and then I try and walk into it again, we're still getting that text, which is fine. We'll check for that text beforehand, but the item is just there, but invisible, which works for our current purposes. Now let's do a check up here. Before we put the interaction text up on the screen, we will is visible. We will check if the static mesh is visible. And we could either do that with a branch or with an and. So is it visible and is the overlapping player hero reference? Or we could do that the other way around so we keep it more consistent with the way things look. Keep these guys in the same spot. And finally, we will need to disable input on the back of this as well. So essentially firing what this script is, which we could just drag that down there, but we want to keep things nice and neat. So we will fire them off separately. And it doesn't matter that these are out of order now. In fact, I will go and change the order just to keep things consistent. There we go. And if we want just to check that that item is being added to our inventory, let's pop over to our player character. Let's grab ourselves event tick, which is the event tick we shouldn't be using of all things, because if it's on our player character, it's always being used. Let's grab inventory for each loop, holding F and clicking anywhere in the graph. Sorry if I forgot to say that shortcut last time. We will break and grab that name and print string and plug the name into the string. And so if anything comes up in our inventory, it's also going to come up on our print string, but let's remember to plug duration into delta seconds so it doesn't go crazy. Compile, save that. So we walk up to our item, we pick it up, and base pickup has been added to our inventory. It's going to stay up there. If I walk through the object, it doesn't fire because it's invisible and it is in our inventory. And now we can tell the menu to read whatever is in our inventory. And we'll do that in the next episode.